Welcome, everybody. How are we all tonight? Is this too, it's not in your way? We're good? This is good? Everybody's happy? Even though it's snowing, we're still good? Snowy night again. And hopefully really soon the snow will go away and the birds will come out and
wear a scarf.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. You know what? I have a steamy cup of hot coffee. Maybe I can make my breath show, right? No, it doesn't work. I should have eaten an ice cube first. Then it would show. So welcome, everybody. We have a brand new year. 2019 promises to be a fascinating year. I'm sure that you guys understand that every year, this will be my 8th consecutive The Year Before Us seminar. And that's the date in which I channel guides for 3 hours to give us insights into what we can expect in the upcoming year. And the purpose of it is always to help us to know how to go with the flow, to flow with the energy of that year, rather than to resist it and get caught in the tide pools and all that and spin ourselves around. And so there's a big advantage in understanding that energy. And I'm really happy to say that, wonderful Sue, she's gone through all of the years and she's reviewed the information that's come forth for the last 7 years. And as we're looking at it and we're reviewing it, every single thing that was said in those seminars, it all came true, which is really kind of mind blowing. Like, yeah, if I knew I was that good, I would have been playing the lottery every day for the last 7 years. But apparently my intuitive ability is very pointed at helping you. If I could just take that energy and point it here, then we'd all be happy instead of just you. No, I'm just messing with you. I am happy, and that is why I do this. The lottery will come, and I'll still do this when the lottery comes, okay?
And the office is right around the corner, by the way.
What's that?
The claim center is right around the corner.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Cool. That's convenient. I won't have to blow through my gas to get there. All right, very good. But one of the reasons I'm saying this about 2019 is, in general, I really don't get the information about the upcoming year until I'm there at that seminar. And this year, the seminar will be on January 26th, which is a Saturday, and it'll be held in Smithtown, and the address and all is on my website. So, feel free to check that out. But there seems to be such a big amount of change and shift this year that I'm already getting hints of the energy of 2019. And it is a very, very important year. And it's not that 2018 and 17 and 16 weren't important, because every year is important, but there's such an emphasis on this year that I feel very excited about what I'm going to be bringing through for the benefit of us and for the benefit of everybody. And if you do receive my newsletter, you'll notice that my opening line is that our dress rehearsal is over. Okay, we've been doing this stuff for a really long time. Doesn't mean you have to be finished, because we're never finished, whether we're in bodies or we're not in bodies. We never finish. We are always evolutionary. Consciousness will continue to grow at extraordinary paces. So we're never finished. So when I say the dress rehearsal is over, I don't mean that we're finished, and I don't mean you have to be at any level of perfection. You don't have to have manifested the harmony that you want in your relationships and romance and with your body and with your families and with the material world and with your health and with yourself. You don't have to be all of that. But what is critical for this year is that you are living at least to the intention of your knowledge. We're never going to meet this mystical, magical bar of what we think maybe spiritual perfection is. And you really don't even want to drive yourself to that, because when you drive yourself to some level of perfection, even spiritual perfection, what you're doing is you're decreasing your love of self. And one of the greatest principles of spirituality and growth and discovery is self-love, because self-love is the platform for all value and all success and all abundance and all harmony. So if you set your spiritual bar, what you expect of yourself, so high, you're actually negating the principal rule of ascension, which is that when you love yourself, all good things come and all good things follow and all good things manifest from that. So my point really in saying that the dress rehearsal is over is that it's okay now to say you know what you know, and live that you know what you know with confidence, that the knowledge that you have today, it's not knowledge that you're going to have in 7 days where it's always eluding you. It's like, oh, what do I not know? What do I need to know? What do I do? What am I missing? What do I have to discover? What do I have to open up? Just accept that you have that basis of knowledge that you can truly, truly, truly tap into. And when you have that awareness and you have that intention to live in the state of consciousness of being awake, then the challenges that 2019 will be bringing, you get an exemption from them. And I can't even emphasize that enough. I think I've been saying that since probably September. If you're living in the intention to be awake and to be conscious, just living in the intention of consciousness, no perfection in meeting it, live in the intention of consciousness. And a lot of the tough, challenging things that are going to come on this globe for the next year, it'll pass right over you. You're immune, you're invisible. And that's one of the reasons why I do the things that it is that I do, because I want you to have the value of energy. And it's so interesting if you think that maybe this is just a bunch of words or language. You can't minimize the energy of rhythms and cycles and the planets and the moon and the sun and the stars. And if you want to say it doesn't affect me, then go tomorrow to the ocean and will the tide to not turn. Okay? Hold back the tide. Hold it back. Just one day, and you'll see that we are not affected by the levels of change in the universe. And quite clearly, we can't even do that one simple thing, which is just the moon. Well, let's throw the other planets in there and galaxies and infinite, eternal wisdom and knowledge and energy. Throw all that in the mix, and you really think that you're going to be exempt from the changes of our existence. You're not. You can't hold back the tides. They're going to come in and they're going to go back out every single day of your life, as will the changes that are happening with us and for us. They are also going to affect you. You're going to be within that change. And my goal always is to have your presence with that change support you and not harm you, not bring you down, but lift you up. All right. So we're going to kick off this year in the Making Discovery series with information that was given to me about a month ago. And that is that in preparedness for what is coming after 2019, we're going to take this year and we're going to look at 12 building blocks of preparedness. Okay. And what that means is that each month we're going to look at something, and it's a building block of what you can tap into, what you can use, and what you can know that are going to make you bulletproof when 2020 arrives. And I know that sounds a little weird or ominous, because 2020 we know is going to be delivering tons and tons of positive energy and expansion and really good things on this planet. But when the tides change, it washes things, and some of the bad stuff has to get washed away still. So the change is going to come in with a lot of polarized energy. It's going to come in with a lot of positive, and it's going to come in with a lot of negative. So we want to be on the side of the positive, right? So these building blocks are going to be your tools for being able to get the greatest benefit and wisdom and happiness and joy and abundance from the energy of 2020 on, as it starts to roll in even more. Okay. Now, I know that, and we all know, there is no year that is defined energetically at the stroke of midnight on December 31st. So I will still use dates as ways to have a conversation with you. But so much of what I'm talking about is layered, meaning that these things, some things have amped up in the 1960s. Some of this stuff has begun in the 1990s. Some of this has begun in 2008. It's not that it just began on December 31st. It's that the flow of energy allows a peak of different periods for humanity to emerge. And when the peaks start to rise, it seems to show itself a little bit more consistently within one period. You know, the real value in celebrating the turning of a year. If we existed for humanity and we didn't demark the changing of the calendar, if we just let one year flow into another without noticing and dating and chronologically noting the passage of time, we wouldn't get the great benefit of becoming aware and mindful and focused on change, with the possibility of using the ritual of celebrating the new year to kind of tweak where it is that we want to be, where we want to focus, what we want to do. Without that celebration at the end of every year, we could develop habits that continue to perpetuate without stepping into the role of, how do I see myself? How do I see my life? How do I see what I want? You know, the fitness industry has made billions off of this ritual, because they know that the places are going to be jam-packed in the month of January, and they'll be exactly by mid-February where they are by mid-December. And so they get to make a ton of money as people, you know, refocus on their goals. So by us looking at the 12 building blocks this year, we don't stop exercising in January. Okay, we're going to make a commitment to be mindful and appreciative of our role in our own lives and our role in the planet for this upcoming year. Make sense, everyone? Nodding heads. That said, I do want to make an official announcement. I've been talking about it a little bit here and a little bit there, but in January of 2020, the year before us seminar will be taking place in Grenada. It's not happening in Smithtown. It'll be happening in Grenada, and I've been planning it for probably 3 or 4 months now. The one thing that I had really aimed to do was to try to find a way to help everybody do a monthly subscription for their payments that I would set aside in escrow, so that everybody didn't have to worry about it. The money would just come out every month, and you wouldn't have to think about the bulk sum by the time we left in January, so we could all go. Okay. However, it just turns out that, you know, legally and accounting reasons, I can't pull it off. I just can't. If anyone has any suggestions of how to get it done, trust me, I have tried, and I have tried. I haven't figured out how to pull that off. So one of the reasons I want to tell you about the trip now is because I want you to step up and put that money aside for yourself. It's not going to be anything exorbitant, but we are going to have this trip as a celebration of, I have to think of how to term it, but think of it as like it's a new dawn. There is a new dawn coming. We want to celebrate this new period of human history, and we want to celebrate it with fun and joy and enlightenment and adventure and freedom and love with each other. So we're going to be going to Grenada and seeing Grenada through the eyes of the Grenadians. We're not going as tourists. We're not walled off in a resort. We're going where the people live. I am setting up a lot of very cool adventures while we're there. And you will also, I was going to make a joke, so I have to, but you'll have the privilege of listening to me talk a lot while we're there. Because that I will also do. I'll give you... Grenada, I chose, we were originally going to Costa Rica, and the challenge we had was, number one, the locations were very difficult to get to from the airports, and the second was that every place that we were checking with, I always like to be with people I know, not just, hi, 1-800-HOTEL. They don't have air conditioning in there anywhere except for the hotel rooms. So it was suggested that we not meet for seminars from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. every day. And there's no way I'm going to make you guys not hear me from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. every day. You know how I like to talk. You think I'm going to let you off the hook while you go sit in your air-conditioned bedrooms? No. So we said, let's go somewhere else. And I have close friends who were born and raised in Grenada. And that's how we get the free pass to not be tourists and to do it the way we would really want to see a place. Okay? So that's the reason. It happens to be a well-kept secret. It's popular with Europeans. It's just not popular with people who live in the United States. So just because you might not have been there or know people that have gone there, it has nothing to do with its beauty. It has everything to do with the fact that it's a well-kept secret, and we're still going to keep that secret among us.
Is it kind of in Thai customs?
Huh?
Is it over in that same area?
It's in the Caribbean. It is in the Caribbean. Yeah, and flights are more convenient, the location to where we'll be staying. I'm going to be offering different levels of your guest rooms. So we have everything from one place will have villas right on the beach if you really want that high-end experience, and we'll have all the way to decent spaces that you can share a room with. I want to make sure that everybody can come, and that if you want to do it with a little more money, you're welcome. If you want to do it with a little less money, you're welcome. It's up to you. That being said, let me give you an estimate of the cost, and just be mature about this one thing in your life, please. I don't like being very adult, but this one I'm going to be adult about. Just the approximate money is, I do believe that the trip will come in, not including your airfare, but it'll probably come in somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500. That would include your hotel, many meals, and preferably, I'm really working toward it being our excursions too. Okay? All right. So it's not terribly unreasonable, because it's very important to me that you're there. We are going to have a wonderful, wonderful celebration. Okay?
What are the dates?
Oh, dates. I should have looked this up on the calendar, but I will tell you that it is our meeting evening. We're meeting on the Thursday evening before Martin Luther King Day in January next year.
21st of January.
Okay, and where our time together is over on Monday evening. Okay, so you can go home on Tuesday. Okay, so we'll be together Thursday evening through Monday evening of that weekend, whatever dates those are. I was trying to make it so you only have to take, a little less time off work. All right. All right. So I wanted to make sure that this is going to be a hell of a year. Really, it's going to be a hell of a year. We got a lot to do. We got a lot to do this year. A lot to do. I have, for those of you who have known me for a long time, I tend to have a very soft touch where I invite people to have the lives that they would like. And then I give you whatever I can give you as information on how to develop that and how to get there. I can tell you that I think this year I can already feel it's amping up a little bit more. The invitation might be a little bit more firm, and let you know you got this, you can do this, a little more courage, a little bit more being out there, a little less reticence from us. I really feel that our power is going to come from those who are living in an awake state. It's so much more important in the upcoming years for us to be more apparent. We can't lock ourselves in our houses and know what we know. It's important. It's the benefit of everyone on this planet for us to be a little bit more heard, a little bit more seen, a little bit more visible, a little bit more courageous. Okay? Everyone got that? Yeah. So I know I'm definitely putting myself to that task for this year, being a little more bold, a little more brave, a little more courageous, and a little more out there. And I invite you all to do that as well. And understand that that doesn't mean that it has to be something you're afraid of, because being a little more out there means that you could say what you think might be kind of beneficial for someone to hear, but in a kind and gentle way. It's a matter of not being quiet, where you might think live and let live, and I'm doing the best I can within my level of awareness, but so are they. They're not ready. But there's so many ways you can just start to share information that truly make people rethink their their drama, rethink what they think is traumatic, rethink what they think is absolute. Just little sentences, little ways of being. And those who are living in an awake state, we tend to have a different vibrational energy that many people find soothing. So if there's a sentence of possibility coming from someone that is soothing, it's more apt to be heard than if it came from someone who's like, you're wrong, you're bad, you're mean, you do this, you're so stupid. If it's coming from a source that's not soothing, even if it's identical, the idea, it can't necessarily be absorbed. But if it comes from you, they might not be able to respond to it in that minute. They might not be able to integrate it in that moment. But at least the seed can be planted because they feel comfortable with you. They feel some level of trust with you because of the way your energy vibrates. Okay? It's interesting. If I were to take 100 people and put them in a room, and I were to say, I'm going to give you $100,000 to 50 people, and I want those 50 people to pick the 50 people that they want to work with. You have to pair off two, right? The 50 people that I give the $100,000 to are going to have a sense of who they want to pair with, even not knowing anyone in the room. Because energy is that vibrant. You're just going to have a sense of who you might be able to trust, who might be really greedy, who might be deceitful, who might be myopic, who might be creative, who might flourish with you, who you might gel with. Like, we know so much more than we pretend we know. Okay. So that energy, if I were, like I said, put 50 people in a room with $100,000 and have them come up to 50 people that they don't know, how they would know who might be best for them to pair off with. That same vibration is how people feel about you when you're in a room with them. There's just something about you. They don't know necessarily what it is, but there's something about you that makes them feel more comfortable, more loved, more safe, more like they can trust, more like they can be themselves, more like they can be real, more like they can let their masks down. So with that power of having that vibration comes the privilege of sharing a little bit more now in the upcoming years than maybe we have in the past. Okay? The fine art comes with sharing without judgment. That's an art. That's an art. I think it comes pretty easily to me, not because I practice the art, but because I really am not judgmental the way most people are judgmental. So for me to say, don't worry about that, don't worry about it, you can tell me anything, and I'm a lockbox and I got your heart and I got your life in my hands. So for me, it's very easy to give suggestions of possibility with it being received because people can sense that I don't have that sense of judgment. So to deliver information of value to others is an art, to do it without judgment. And that role is on you. That role is on you. Okay. If you're sharing is what comes from gurgling forth in you because you're passionate and excited. Judgment is, this is going to get you in a mess, or you're not doing this right, or, really? Did that work for you last week? That's judgment. Sharing comes forth. It's like, oh, yeah, listen, you're climbing that tree, but I have these great things you could put on the side of your shoe. You want to try these? Not, do you want to break your neck? I have these things here, and you're not using them. It's a big difference, right? So you share, you let what you know be exciting and let other people want to take it because they can feel that you are excited about it, right? Okay. Wow, I guess I had something to say. Your guides. Okay, so any questions or thoughts today? So far tonight? I'm going to make sure I have my chat room open so that if we get questions online, they can also participate. I'm not quite sure I did that this time, which I normally do. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's actually snowing in Pennsylvania. Really? Wow. I guess I'm about 20 minutes behind talking about the snow. Hi in Pennsylvania. Oh, let's see what else we have. No snow in New York. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, listener. It is not snowing in New York. Thank you, listener. Okay, that was really good. Keep the questions coming. So now that I gave you a pause here, does anyone have any thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
If you're trying to be open with people, but your family is telling you to shut up, like don't talk to people, why would you talk to that person? You don't even know them. Like, how do you respond to your family when they don't like what you do?
I've definitely had this situation. And I got to the point where I do it anyway.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I really did just get to the point that I have the courage to be who I am without apology, you know? And I realized that there's so many ways I'm not like most people. And sometimes that might be a little frustrating for people because it's easier for them to be like they would expect me to be, or for me to be what they expect from most people. And I just don't apologize for it anymore. Because it's very confining to have to hold that back in. All right. I'll give you a really quirky example. I don't know if anyone was at my seminar last night, but the more I become enlightened, the more earthly tasks become difficult. And I didn't understand it in the beginning, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Navigating the earth and being human, it is a left brain activity. What I do is a right brain activity. The more time you spend in your right brain, you're opening up the conduit of eternal wisdom and love and joy and freedom and bliss. The less you're able to go into the database of GPS and navigation systems to be a human, right? So one of the byproducts of this, it's so silly, but I did notice it about a year ago, is I have a hard time with zippers. Like zippers, they're not eternal, and they just trip me up. They trip me up. They really trip me up. And I have tried and tried and tried. I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. I go slow. I look at it. I look in a mirror. I try. And for some reason, every day or so, I cannot zipper something, or I miszip it, or whatever. So in the beginning, when this all started, I would be very apologetic about it and embarrassed. And, you know, I would pull someone in the back room and say, could you please just help me out of this code? Or I'm going to pull myself out of the code and I'm going to give it to you. See if you can work it out so I can get back in it later. But I used to just go and hide with someone I really, really trusted. But now I don't mind walking in the house at the end of the night with one little bit of a zip together in the middle. And then I'm like, you know, Brett, could you help me get out of my coat? And I don't apologize for it anymore. And I don't make them feel more comfortable with the fact that that is not my primary skill set anymore. You follow me? And after a while, everyone just adjusts. And you know what's that word that comes from that movie? Eulogize me? What's that word, the way they say it instead of eulogize? One day, if anyone ever eulogizes me, I have given them so much material that they'll be so happy that I decided to not be apologetic for talking to strangers. Right? So look on and I will remind people of that as well. So listen, when I die, if you want to find something to say about me, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff to say. and then just be okay with it. Just be okay with it. We're so much not here to be like everybody else. We really are here to be our own personal shine. So when you do something against someone's desire, when you do something like that, you really are showing them that it is okay to shine, and you don't have to be like every other person on the planet. Okay. Hey, sometimes it might misfire. You might talk to a stranger and they might find that they're put off by it, but that's okay. For the 99 others that maybe made a difference in their day, it's so worth that one, right? So worth that one. Oh, zippers. I wish that wasn't a true story. I try.
Nobody.
Right. So does anyone else have that problem? Like zippers? Zippers, not eternal.
In the store to a change coat, and I zipped it up and zipped it, and I couldn't get off the chain.
All right.
Stuck.
You've just liberated me with that got changed to something with a zipper story.
That's a true story and embarrassing.
Okay, what you do in your personal life is your business, honey. But if that's the way the story's going to be told, I will tell the story that way also. All right. So anyway, any other question? You started it. Any other thoughts? No, we got no thoughts.
We have plenty of thoughts.
Okay. So, you know what was really interesting? So this morning, yeah, one thing that is sometimes disconcerting by channeling is I come from corporate America. You never winged anything. Wung things? Winged? We never winged them. Wung is not a bad word though. So you couldn't wing anything in corporate America. I was always over prepared, right? When you channel, you have to wing everything because you don't have the information until you open up the conduit, okay? So this morning I wake up, I know that the 12 building blocks of the year are starting because I've been talking about it for 2 months. And I'm like, I don't have a building block. And I'm like, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And I went through that little bit of a frustration that I go through where you're wanting me to do this and I don't know how to do it. And with this, I turn the page of the calendar. I leave a calendar by this kitchen sink every day. And this year's is a puzzle a day, right? Wouldn't you know it? Puzzle a day, haven't seen anything like this in any calendars I've ever had, is stacked blocks.
Oh.
All right. I have no concern whatsoever. Once again, I'm just going to remember that it always works out. All I got to do is show up and we're good. So today's block, the building block for 2019, and it may sound primitive, but it's so important that you take this in on a brand new level. This is it. The dress rehearsal is over. Okay. So you want to take this building block in on a brand new level. And the building block is change is possible. Change is possible. That's our first building block for the year. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because one of the interesting things about the evolution of humanity is that there are so many things that coalesce to help us reach the point where we're going to be in this new age, in this new era. And all of the tiny pieces, they're complex and they seem to be scattered all over the globe and all over history, but they're there purposefully. And they really do make sense when you look at them in hindsight. And one of those pieces in the puzzle of where we're going was the advent of modern psychology. And when we began to understand Freudian psychology and looking at the patterns that were developed in our childhood and the consequence that it had on our long-term ability to be happy adults, we started to recognize that this concept of cause and effect, that it had some validity. So we started to explore for the last 50 years this possibility of the connection between our childhoods and our adult behavior and our adult limitations. And we were able to recognize that when we can see the thread of where something began that might be pressuring our points of discomfort today, if we get back down to the core of that thread, we have the possibility of unearthing the connection and changing our trajectory so that we can restore happiness in that area in our lives. Okay. Now, everything new can go amok. And one thing that's going a little bit amok with that is that we are spending a lot of effing time looking at why we're unhappy. A lot of effing time. Okay? So you're unhappy. Yes, it's good to know the root cause, but do you really want to simmer in the root cause for another 20 years? Didn't you just give up 50 years to the root cause? Right? You gave up 50, so take the next 50 for you. Change is possible. Yes, you want to know the root. You want to understand the cause for some of where you got derailed, because it's essential that you let go of the idea that you are innately flawed. No one is innately flawed, and you certainly are not innately flawed. Understanding the value of where you got derailed in your life will help you to be able to say, I am whole. I am worthy. I can be happy. I can restore what is innately inside of me. The ability to have a harmonious life, an ability to have the things in my life that it is that I want. But if you spend decades now pulling apart every little tiny thing that ever happened when you were a kid to see how it's affecting you today, what becomes a habit is that you will never think that that will be finished. And every time you have an uncomfortable feeling, you'll be running around trying to see who wronged you to make you unhappy about that one thing, or find out why you have that one negative thought. At some point, you have to say, I get it. I get it. And I choose happiness. I choose to apply that which it is I have discovered, because I'm not going to spend any more time giving up my life to the people that have harmed me. They've had too much of it. So when I say change is possible, this is not a superfluous thing where it's really sweet to say the leaves bud, the leaves grow, they bloom, they change colors, they fall, they blanket the earth, then everything is quiet. Oh, look, are there any leaves left? No, they're all gone. It's just snow right there. We can say that, and it's beautiful because nature is always allowing us to see universal wisdom. Nature doesn't know how to get itself off track. We're the only ones that can get nature off track, right? Universal wisdom comes through nature. It's going to do that which is true. So you have a little drop of water and you hit a rock, and eventually a billion years later you're going to have a groove in the rock. It's inevitable. Change is inevitable. Change happens. We know this. So theoretically, it sounds like it's a throwaway. Yeah, of course I know that. That was on a middle school poster, and I used to have to read it all the time. Change is possible. But the point is that change is possible for you in your life today. It doesn't have to be in 6 months. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be when your mother dies, or when you retire, or when your kid comes and tells you he loves you, or when you move, or when your knee heals. It doesn't have to wait. It doesn't have to wait. If you really have gotten to the point that you believe you have the right to be happy, let that change in. Change is possible. Change is possible. Change is possible. Yes.
Can you give an example?
Can I give an example of change is possible? Okay, yeah, absolutely. All right, so everything that I do from the perspective of having experienced it. I can't come out and tell you something that feels like it could be of value to you if I haven't already experienced it, because I am not a fraud. That feels so disingenuous to me. My own experience and my own pathway is what allows me to be emphatic about some of the things that I share with passion with you. And so most of you have heard over the years, at least, not in detail, but I had a crummy childhood. That's the bottom line. Was it more crummy than yours or yours? I don't really know, but I can tell you that I wouldn't have wanted other people to experience my childhood as it unfolded. So are there personal triggers for me? Are there things that remind me of some of the worst moments, of some of the worst things that I've ever experienced? Hell yeah. But what benefit is there for me to break down and cry and feel self-pity and tell other people what I endured if I'm going to be miserable during the time of revisiting it again? What am I doing? I'm letting the suffering that they created as an opportunity for me in my life, I'm letting them still make me suffer. And my feeling was that as I saw the threads of the pain and the effect, the pain and the effect, the pain and the effect, as I was able to notice that cause and the effect, so I could liberate myself from self-punishing for my huge amount of imperfections, my flaws, all the things I regretted, all the things I was ashamed about, all the things I did that I would not have done if I was where I am today. To liberate myself from that, I had to know that my behaviors were a consequence of my childhood, that is not innately who I am. Okay. But at that same time frame, in the period of me making these discoveries and understanding the links, I also recognized that I gave up so many years to the sources of my pain. Hell, I gave up so many years to the sources of those pain. And then when the sun started to come out, and that might sound corny, but I'm going to tell you that when the pain lifted, I felt like I was understanding what a blue sky was for the first time in my life. And I realized that I had dark shadows following me everywhere. And when the sun really came out, I'm like, there's no fucking way you are getting another moment of pain out of me. There's no way. I changed the second I felt that. I changed. I let the change happen. I didn't have to analyze. I didn't have to tear it apart anymore. I didn't have to suffer anymore. The triggers, they don't trigger me anymore. They're just facts on earth. You know, I don't immerse myself in the discomfort of the triggers. There are certain things that I don't participate in because I prefer not to. I would rather spend my time with birds and leaves and flowers and children and sidewalk chalk. I love sidewalk chalk. I have no young kids anymore, but I have a bucket of sidewalk chalk that is enormous. It's enormous. So that's where I would rather spend a day with 10 colors of sidewalk chalk than crying over what you did in my life, right? So that's what I mean. But there's this switch you have inside of you that can do this. That's what's possible, is that switch inside of you where you no longer need to struggle from that which it is that has transpired before today. There's a switch. Let that switch go on. That's what I mean by change is possible.
So with the trigger, how do you move past the trigger? I mean, like, I get it. Like, is there like an example, like without revealing your past, like, is there an example that you can give?
Well, gosh, if I say, you're saying, is there an example of not being triggered by a trigger? Any example that's popping into my head at this second is, it's very, very revealing, okay, of the specificity of some things. But toss it up here. Let me use one of yours.
Like if you have a mother, or if you have like try a
I got one.
Okay.
It's not mine. Okay. All right. So, did you ever see a mom who had a teenage pregnancy raise her daughter, right? It's almost inevitable that she's going to get a lot of sex ed by the time she's 12, right? Because the mom wants to prevent the daughter from having the same challenges that she had. She'll be the first to admit, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. But in the meantime, she's going to protect her daughter from all ends, from this horrible thing happening. Because when it happened to her, she had to tell her mom, she had to tell her the guy, she had to do this, she had to do that, she had to reimagine her entire future, right? So she doesn't want her daughter to endure that. So what I would say in that case is that when you are getting this urge to be that overly concerned and that overly dramatic with your daughter about sex ed, beating this topic into her over and over and over again, turn your attention to examples of when a parent is parenting someone and they're able to make decisions that are in their best interest, that they feel like good decision makers, that they feel like they're the ones that can decide when I have a baby or if I have a baby or where I have a baby. So what you do is you turn your attention to a different perspective, even if that's not the one that you share. And you use that as a model to change what was triggering you. That would be an example. Okay. If, if one of my past things were that I saw someone get shot, I'm not going to watch movies where I'm watching close gun shots and things like that. I'm okay with foregoing the stuff that is portraying on TV and movies some of the things that I went through. I don't need to watch it. It has no value to me at all. And I'm okay with that. But it doesn't mean I'm missing out on life. I mean, I just went to see Mary Poppins last week, and that was pretty good. So there's plenty of stuff out there for me that doesn't bring up the triggers. Okay. Although the cannon, isn't that annoying? In that's the one thing. It's like, get rid of the guy with the cannon. Yeah. Sorry.
Not to get too crazy. My mind blocked out a lot of my childhood from my parents. So now I have triggers that show up and I don't know, like I'll just shut down. So how do you deal with something that you don't know?
Right. Okay. What she's saying is that she has blocked out a lot of her childhood so that when a trigger emerges, she doesn't know what is emerging. You just know that the trigger is there. Yeah. All right. That's a really good question. And one of the things that's very, very helpful when that happens is the most important thing to do is to recognize that something has triggered you. Taking ownership of the trigger point is almost more important than understanding what it is that created that within you. Okay. So you can take the knowledge that cause and effect of the things that happen when you're a kid, create triggers when you're an adult. And the purpose of that knowledge is to forgive yourself, right? So if you accept that and you have faith in that process, then when the trigger happens, you can address the trigger without knowing the direct root cause, and you can forgive yourself the trigger. So does that make sense? Okay. So one of the processes of enlightenment is the concept of surrender. Surrender, faith, trust. I'm asking for a little faith here. You have to understand that there is nothing in you that is flawed. Any behavior that is modeling a trigger or demonstrating a trigger is simply because there was a cause in your childhood that created that trajectory for you. Okay. Now what you can do is you can take the trigger itself and say, what can I do to modify this feeling? What can I do to change? Because I know change is possible. Okay, so you can modify the consequence without truly remembering the root cause. I'm going to give you two more. I've done tens of thousands of sessions now, and I do many, many, many sessions with people I don't know, people I haven't seen, meeting them on the telephone for the first time. And in that body of experience, I've experienced where I have gotten information about something traumatic that happened in somebody's childhood. And when I get that piece of information, I oftentimes will know if they remember it, or I'll know if they don't remember it. So with that, I know I have to go this way if they don't remember it, or I have to go this way if they do remember it. So that's part of the workflow first, the yes, no. So I go that way first. If they don't remember it, then we come to another decision triangle. Or is it a triangle? Tree? What is it in the workflow thing? A decision, is it a triangle? It's a tree? Okay. So anyway, so I come to the next one where they don't remember it. They don't remember it. So do I go and allow their guides to reveal it? Or do we go to the fact that we can address the consequence without revealing it, right? I'm never going to tell someone something like that because that's very intrusive, and you can't mess with people's lives like that, right? But what I can do is, from the guides will ask questions. And as the questions are being asked, they will base the next question on your answer. And the guides, meanwhile, they know what you're thinking. I don't know what you're thinking, but they know what you're thinking. So they're gonna know what direction to take the session based on what they know you are thinking. Okay. Now, here's an interesting, very, very interesting story about that. I know that there was value to the clients, but there was certainly a lot of value to me with this. But there was one week when I did 2 sessions with a woman, with 2 different women that I didn't know. And both of them, early in the session, I got a very serious incident of sexual abuse when they were young, like 14, 13, 12, both of them. And both of them, I got that they didn't know it. They didn't remember it. And both of them, I got that the reason they're doing a session with me is because of that, but they don't know they're doing a session with me because of that, because they don't remember it. So this is both in the same week. All right. So as we're approaching it, the first woman, we go through the questions, and the guides ask her some questions, and she answers. And I'm like, oh, do you remember a friend of your brother? I'm acting as if I have no idea what I'm saying. So with this, she is like putting all the pieces together. And by the end of 5 minutes worth of very gentle, innocuous questions, she was able to remember that her brother's friend and neighbor had sexually assaulted her when she was 13. It all came back to her because the guides brought her there. So what was really fascinating was she said, that has been the missing link my entire life. Within 12 minutes, she's like, I don't think I even need any more of the session. And I said, well, why don't we just stay on the phone anyway? Because I'm not refunding you 50 minutes. So with this, we got to figure out how to rebalance all of that and let it go. And at the end of the hour, she was like, I can't even believe that this happened, because she said, I'm going to tell you, I really am okay. Like, I don't really think I need to, go into therapy or confront him or whatever. She said, I really, really am okay. This was the missing link, that all of the work I've done on myself, I couldn't put all of it together because I didn't remember that one spot. Okay. Second woman, there's no way this is going to be of value to her to have this revealed in this moment. So what we did instead, her guides, is that we put a suggestion out of a traumatic event that had happened, yet it feels as though just your acknowledgement that childhood wasn't perfect gives you the power to blah, 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 blah. And by the end of the hour, she had that same experience of seeing, this isn't me. And I think you're probably right. And I really think I don't have to figure it out. I'm actually okay not knowing. Like, she out and out said that. So the point is that change is possible, right? Change is possible. If I had a third woman that week and the revelation came to her and she wanted to go through the process of uncovering and remembering and maybe hypnosis and therapy, that's wonderful too. But now she's got taking back my life moment that begins right there. But you having a trigger and being able to be conscious of it is your taking back your life moment. Okay? All right. The most critical part of all of this is that you are not flawed. You are not flawed. You are not flawed. You have no flaws. You may have adapted human behaviors or reactions that aren't where you want them to be, but you are not flawed. Okay? All right. That was a good question. Thank you. Oh, I know. Part 2. Okay. So I'm glad I looked at you again. So it's all about you. It's all about you. All right. Next. You don't even have to really believe in auto writing in order to have the value of auto writing. One of the best things that you could possibly do is, after you discover a trigger and say, this doesn't feel rational to me. It doesn't feel founded in something that makes sense. So jot it down there so you can capture the memory, because we are like water through a sieve. Jot it down. And then when you get a moment where you can have clarity and no interruption, just write that trigger down on the top of a piece of paper or the top of a Word document, and just allow yourself to write about it. because what can more than likely happen is the information of value to you, just like I said, these different clients had different information of value to them. The information of value can come through you in that writing session. Okay? Okay. That's generally possible, and I'm saying it to you specifically because it is possible for you specifically. Okay? I believe you will have success with that. Okay? Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Let's see if we have anything else in the, ooh, I see you use an iPad and you always forget that you can't just touch the screen, right? All right. I think we're good here. Yeah. Oh, wait, there's a more button. Oh, I don't know what to do with that. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, everyone, how are we out there? We're all good? Yes, question.
One other thing is, like how you interpret them as enlightenment steps? Is this an enlightenment step, or?
I actually did think about that. So how is a building block separate from enlightenment steps? And there are some parallels. The difference is that enlightenment steps don't have any order of completion in order for them to be of value to you. An enlightenment step can elude you your entire life, and you can still be fantastically happy. You'll bump around to that one again in the next lifetime, and you'll pick it up then. It's perfectly fine. The building blocks, the reason it's being referred to as building blocks is that each block is going to benefit you specifically for 2019 toward embracing and welcoming and enjoying the new era that is coming. Okay? So some of them may parallel enlightenment steps, but some of them may be just independent building blocks that will help you to navigate the best course possible for you and for others from 2020 and on. All right.
So change is possible is just a building block?
I'm going to call it a building block, but it of course could cross over to something in enlightenment. It's no hard barrier. There's that saying that accept that which you can change and all that, right?
Oh, yeah. God grant me the serenity.
A serenity to accept. Huh?
Accept the things I cannot change and change.
The courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference.
Maybe someone can jot that down for me on the break, and then I'll read it. But that little tiny poem is. Thank you. The Serenity Prayer. Okay, go look it up. Download the lyrics. That little saying. The content of that saying, it is an enlightenment principle. Someone figured out a way to put that into words, and it is an enlightenment principle. The idea that change is possible is more the idea to accept that your change or valuable change is possible at any given moment. So it's not only about understanding that things change and that that's inevitable, but it's also about really personally knowing that you can change at any given moment. Okay? Yeah. When I was learning how to let my consciousness leave my body, there was almost like a flip switch in my brain where I would go from only the human side, and then I would switch over to the eternal side. And over a lot of time, I could actually feel it. It was almost like a physical switch that shifted. When I was shifted to the human part, I was miserable. When I switched to the non-human part, I was ecstatic. So I had this real agony and ecstasy 2 years. And then finally, I got to the point that I never turn it over only to the human side anymore, right? And that's the kind of thing that change is possible, is trying to help you understand, is that the toggling back and forth, the knowing I can change, but I don't know how, the revisiting all the pain and all of the suffering, the change is possible, is that I actually can do it. I can do this. I can make that switch. I can flip that switch. I can flip that switch. Okay. One thing that's really important to, cute. All right. Thank you. One of the things that's really important to remember is that I'm using the word suffer tonight. I don't love the word, but it's a good way to convey how we feel about things, especially from our own body of pain, right? So I'm using that word, but I don't love the word. But one of the things to remember about suffering is that there are oftentimes rewards for suffering, and you can become addicted to the reward for suffering. So again, accept that which you cannot change. You cannot change something if you're addicted to the reward for suffering. You follow me? So the prayer will get you somewhere, but it's really important to accept that change is possible to get you the rest of the place. Here's the prayer. God, I use all that is, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Perfect. Thank you. It's so powerful. It really is. So what does it mean to, I'm going to give you a break. What does it mean to be addicted to what the suffering brings you? It means that, all right, here's a tiny example. In my family of origin, he who suffered the most got the most positive attention. So I spent a good part of my life having the greatest shit hit the fan stories, right? So in order to keep the focus of any positivity that family had to dole out, to keep it, to get a bigger chunk of that pie, I had to have the biggest struggle. So I was addicted to challenges because I was addicted to the benefit that I unconsciously believed that it brought me. Follow? Yeah. Okay, cool. So on that note, let us take a break, walk around, mingle, say hello to each other, grab a cup of coffee, grab a bottle of water, and I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Okay, hello everybody. Did you mix and mingle and have fun, everyone? Okay, I'm going to start out with a question that's online. Let's see. I'll read the question instead of having my own personal moment here. I'll share with you. A student committed suicide this week, and I've been looking for helpful words to share with students. When things seem hopeless, remember change is possible. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Sure. Absolutely. I think that's very, very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Suicide's a funny thing that you want to tread lightly, and there's these time windows where people need to experience that which it is that they're experiencing. And even if you have wisdom that can help maybe accelerate their period of whatever they're experiencing right then, they might not be ready for that wisdom yet. So when all else fails, it's always good to say, I'm here for you, or I don't know exactly what you're going through, but if you ever want to talk, and you say things like that, and just let somebody know that there are sources of love and comfort, and maybe even different perspectives. I also think that we're talking about being out there a little more now. It's okay to trust your judgment a little bit. Not even judgment, but intuition, because if 3 people are experiencing the same thing, you might want to say this to this one, and this to this one, and this to that one. It's because you really do have the ability to kind of auto speak the way that I do, which means you're channeling. So trust sometimes that the thing that is coming forth or gurgling up in you, that the universe is trying to give you a prompt and trying to give you permission to share that thought with that person. And in this particular case, this is a class. I'm using it more personally. It might even be that you can trust that you can experience the wisdom from the guides for that entire classroom. All right. And just have a little bit of trust in that. If you're coming from heart and your intention is to help, then you can trust that something that might be gurgling up to say, it might be just the right thing to say at the right moment without you worrying about it. If anything else, people will understand that at least your heart's in the right place. When you are coming from heart, we tend to not say something that's going to be brutal or insensitive. So you can feel pretty safe that even if the seed wasn't able to be to emerge at that moment, at least the seed is there and that they took it in as an expression of love. Okay. But that was a good question. As being a conduit to guides, it's always so interesting when I hear stories about how we were just talking about that at dinner. We were just talking about that was exactly on my mind, or you answered my question, all of this. My role is to not have a personal agenda, and I don't. And that's one of the reasons why the well is endless in the information that I bring forth, and why 2 seminars are never the same. Because what I do is I do open up to whoever's there. So not only am I opening up to you and your guides, but I'm opening up to the people online. And somehow, I don't need to quantify it, but the people who will be getting this video tomorrow and watching it, I'm opening up to them too, even though their experience with the video is in the future. That's how it works. So there's a lot of evidence of us being one in what I do. And I'm fortunate enough to have a position where I get the feedback all the time, where I am going to get an email in a few days that what you said was exactly what I was talking about after they watch the video. This happens all the time. And the specificity of it is it never loses its miracle factor for me. I'm always awed by it and appreciative of it. So recognize that I might have trained myself a little more pronouncedly to be able to do this than you did, but you still have this ability if you keep yourself out of the way. Don't overthink it. Just try to feel and try to get the urges and the pushes of things that are popping. Thinking can sometimes get us into trouble, but the popping stuff can be very, very, very helpful and beneficial. All right. Okay, so I wanted to share something and talk about this. Somebody was talking to me about on the break. First of all, I want to give another update to something that someone brought up a long time ago. We had been talking many, many months ago about styrofoam as an example of how you can amp up your presence in the world, that you don't have to necessarily start a massive movement where you're running down to a country and inoculating everybody for some kind of disease, but you can, as you have demonstrated so beautifully, you can go into a shop and say, I love your food, I love having lunch here, however, did you know this about styrofoam? And if you can only give me my lunch in styrofoam, I just have to find another place to buy my lunch. And as we heard her story over months, she did get one place to completely stop using styrofoam. And I really applaud you on that. And I think and someone who's online was able to successfully do that as well, that I became aware of too. And yours might have even been more than one place now, right? Was yours more than one place already?
No, but you said that I guess she heard my story.
Yes, and the person who's online, yes, exactly. So the ripple started. But my kind of update on that story is that New York City is going styrofoam free.
All right.
So I want to thank Jay for that, because consciousness is collective. So you could easily have been part of the motivating energy in that limitless consciousness that we are all sharing. So somehow, some way, we're tapping into the same river of possibility. Okay. You're probably not going to run for president on the platform that you got New York City to stop using styrofoam, but you can certainly take personal ownership of the fact that You were a contributing factor. Okay. That's how the ripples work. So by you having a little more courage, a little more going out there, you weren't unkind.
Well,
You-
that's because of you.
Oh,
Because honestly,
I said, then I'll run for president.
and it's all about, like you said, with intuition and the guides, because I was here the night before I got dinner at one of my favorite places. And I don't think I would have been as calm.
Ah,
And
interesting.
that's from you, because honestly, a lot of times things like that really irritate me. If I wasn't just, in this atmosphere, I don't think I would have been like, really? But I was able to do it in a kinder way because of you.
That's really
Thank
cool.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for
That's
sharing
when
that.
people hear us when we're
Yes.
kinder.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not, and so back to the whole reaction thing and triggers, you don't want to react. People aren't going to listen to you when you react.
Yeah. It's so what she's talking about is that her kindness was a byproduct of being able to, be here and think differently about our place and how we can affect change through kindness and all. And that, we have always heard that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And we're kind of taught to be abrasive in order to be heard and to get what you want. There have been a couple of exceptions, and I'm certainly not perfect by any means, but I will tell you, I have gotten a lot of things done through kindness, through kind conversations I've had when someone is clearly not doing what might be coming from the perspective of love. And I have come at it from a perspective of love and a different perspective, and asking people to elevate rather than fighting them where they are and where they live just by being abrasive. I don't think that that's the only way to get things done, but based on the present level of awareness of humanity right now. There's going to be levels of people who can act in kindness and people who clearly can't. So as this transition is happening with the new era coming in, there's going to be some abrasive people that are going to get things done. But the goal would be to get rid of all of that abrasion and hatred and disempowerment and eventually work toward. So if we happen to be a smaller population that can set the example of working toward change through love, then let's give everyone an opportunity to get there. Okay? All right. Yeah. All right. So there was something else I was going to say, but we can wait. Yeah.
The idea of, maybe this is overthinking, but the idea of accepting, surrendering, to me, that's very pessimistic. And maybe I'm missing something.
Okay.
But, I think that optimism about change being possible, that if you surrender into what is, or accept what is, whatever it might be,
Right.
how do you maintain the viewpoint of optimism that
Yeah. All right. First, I think your question is great. How do you're saying that maybe surrender or acceptance is pessimistic, and that you're just kind of living with what is, where you prefer to stay in optimism instead of surrendering. What you're actually talking about, it's just a matter of words. You're talking about succumbing. Succumbing means giving up. Surrendering means letting flow go and not letting your own happiness be attached to the outcome. Okay. When you let go of your attachment to the outcome, which is surrender, what you do is you actually make this big space for improvement to emerge. But when you stay in a state of resistance and fighting something, you are actually precluding the change from coming in, because resistance is now meeting resistance. So surrender is not about saying this is the way it is and I give up. Surrender is about saying I'm keeping the optimistic vision of what is possible, but I'm also allowing the universe to be flowing where it is right now without connecting my sense of peace or happiness to what the outcome is. Okay? It's interesting because I was, coach a lot of people who are in relationships, and inevitably two people are not going to come to the same relationship or household, tasks and duties and how we spend our time with the same perspective. So there's a lot of management that you need when you are in a relationship. And, I don't have personally a lot of deal breakers, but a deal breaker for me would be to live with someone who has the news on. I'm not going to do it. It might not be a deal breaker for you, and you might be okay with it, or you might have the news on all the time. That's fine. For me, it's a deal breaker. So I'm not going to surrender to somebody having the news on and then continue to live with them. Okay. Could I? Maybe. I'm not enlightened enough to do it. I'm not enlightened enough to be able to say I want to be bombarded with other people's version of, I don't want to be bombarded with, since news is primarily negative. I'm not talking about a good news channel. I don't want that to be a part of my energy in my home on a daily basis, that's what I'm digesting. That's what I'm feeding my focus or feeding my being. So I could surrender to the fact that maybe this is someone else's choice. Therefore, my choice is to not live here. I'm still surrendering. So my happiness is not connected to that person turning off the news. I am surrendering to the fact that I have a different alternative, a different choice. You got it? Okay. So you don't want to mistake that either. It's not about living in conditions that are completely disharmonious for you either. You have power. You have power to change whatever you might perceive as being unacceptable or disharmonious. All right. I know a lot of people expect themselves to change to everything, and that's a sign of enlightenment, to accept everything when they're with people that they choose to be with, that they love. That's not necessarily true. You still have a choice of what it is that you surround yourself and what it is that you subject yourself to. You might tell yourself a different story about choice, because we all do. There's money, there's this, there's picking up the kids, there's that, there's the whatever. You're going to tell yourself a story that you don't have choice, but we always have choice. That's the bottom line. We always have choice. And even in a case where my choice is 90%, I'm all in, and this is going to continue to work if you get this TV out of a place where I can hear it and use a headset. Otherwise, this is not going to work for me. I know I'm using the TV news as an example, but it really is true about anything that is someone else is saying, I can't give it up, I won't stop it, the habit is so ingrained, you're going to have to keep enduring my choice. You do have a choice. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. Okay? Might be hard, but you always have a choice.
Can I add on that, Karen?
Sure.
So
I'm going to, we have lots and lots of people online these days. It's really, really growing. So when I repeat what you say, don't be frustrated by it, but I just want to make sure that other people can hear what you're saying as well. Okay?
So you brought up the example of the news, and I have a grandmother who I was just telling you, she's going to be 98 this week. And
It's going to be 98.
Yes, and she, unfortunately, she's not a sweet little old lady. I'll just like say that from the beginning, okay? And so something that I had to learn was that you're not always going to make everybody happy. Like, I had to learn that lesson. And so, it's sad. My grandmother went through a lot of difficult things that she never got help for, and she has post-traumatic stress disorder. She was in the war, she experienced war things, and she experienced a lot of really tough things. So she has put herself in sort of a cocoon in her home, and she watches the news about 5 times a day, every day. And so she is.
It's a little bit like sitting in, drinking Clorox 5 times a day.
She's basically addicted to misery, and I'm not saying that in a way that it's a fact. She's addicted to misery. She's comfortable with it. She needs to know everything that's going on in the world. She needs to have that control. So about 8 years back, I made a decision that I would go see her every year, but I was no longer going to stay at the house.
Okay.
I was not going to sleep there. And I knew that it was not going to go over well. I'm the only grandchild. I always, made everybody proud, and I did what I was told and whatnot. And I knew that the shit was going to hit the fan when I said I'm staying at a hotel. And so the shit did hit the fan, and she wasn't happy, but she got over it. And I had to make the choice to take care of myself. So when you bring that
It
up,
is.
people may not like it at first, but hopefully they're going to get over it, and you have to choose to love yourself first.
Yes.
And make the choice to take care of yourself. And
Yeah.
now we're both happy because you know what? At 98,
She doesn't want you under her roof anyway.
mid-August, she doesn't want air conditioning on. And I'm like, when is the air conditioning on? So now I get to blast the air and listen to soothing music. She can still do her routine, and then we can still have a visit.
Okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, that's exactly a great example. I'll try to paraphrase it really, really quickly. But basically, cranky 98-year-old watches the news 5 times a day and is addicted to misery. And you knew that when you visit her annually, you would no longer be able to stay with her. And it was not accepted freely and with open arms. So there was a challenge, but ultimately over time, when you chose love of self, she came on board, and it has worked out really, really, really well. Okay. And yeah, did I nail it? The short version. I had a client who he came to me for quite a while because he really wanted to understand his purpose. And that sounds, I want to know my purpose. It sounds so cutesy, right? But this guy needed to know what the hell he was doing here on earth. I mean, it was that big of a deal to him. And as we started to sort through it, it turned out that when AIDS started to become known, he was living in San Francisco as an openly gay man. And over the course of when it was AIDS was sweeping through San Francisco, he buried 250 people. Buried 250 people. And when he came through it, he was not even HIV positive, even though he had demonstrated some of the same behaviors of those men. And it was all men, so we'll say it as it was. And so the reason he needed to know his purpose was he wanted to know why the hell he was alive. Okay. So what was really interesting about it was I was able to help him figure out that I have to try to say this without giving any information about a person. So I'll try to say this as generically as possible. He became an executive at a pharmaceutical company. Please don't look into this. And in that, he really headed up a treatment for bipolar, okay, and for schizophrenia. One of the things that he created was tutorials and videos for families of mentally ill patients so that the family could have something far greater than an archaic understanding of mental illness. And he kind of made it mandatory that any doctor that would prescribe this particular treatment, that they would be giving the video out to the families of the patients that took it. So what I helped him to understand is that you took an experience of absolute ignorance and absolute darkness, and you were able to help so many people in that experience, and you think about these stories, 250 men. Some of them the families accepted, some of them the mother did and the dad did, some of them the dad did and the mom did, and some of them all the siblings cut them out and the parents did, and one grandparent would, no one else would. Some they were disowned by everyone biologically connected to them. So in the course of these 250 diagnoses through deaths, this man was pounding on doors saying, get the F out of that building and visit your son in the hospital, you asshole. And then he was knocking on someone else's door. And then he was the only one that would show up at a wake. And then he was doing this and that. So he didn't have to live within that crisis for the next few decades, but he took the same idea of opening up our perceptions about things and living in love and acceptance and appreciating that everybody's doing the best that they can within their level of awareness, and that we are managing our life circumstances that we might not have picked a la carte. And now he's putting it in another industry of ignorance. So his purpose was to be able to fuel the courage that it took to make a difference in an industry that does not always profoundly execute that ideal. All right. So my whole point is that change is so possible. And when we resist that change of doing what we believe we want to do for ourselves or for the benefit of somebody else, we are not allowing the changing of the tide. We're not allowing it to come in. We're holding it back by being less verbal, less bold, less involved, less saying a little bit more. So something as simple as saying, Grandma, I'm not staying underneath your roof. What it does is it holds one person accountable for what they're putting out there, what their energy is, what they're choosing, and saying, I'm allowed to choose me. Just the way those young men in San Francisco, they didn't choose that pathway, but the universe said, how can we quicken the obliteration of ignorance? The universe is always going to find a way to try to remove ignorance from our perspective and from our being. And sometimes those pathways are more difficult than others. So if you keep pressing forward on that which you know to be true, we're actually helping others not to experience the levels of ignorance that still exist. You know, that's part of the reason why you want to be more forward about the things that are important to you, the things that matter to you, because it really, 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 really does make a difference. It does make a difference. Is it a coincidence that New York City isn't using styrofoam? No, it's not. Whether you tapped into them or they tapped into you, who cares? You both tapped into something good, right? It's fascinating. It's fascinating, the collectiveness of consciousness. So to not do anything is the equivalent of resistance or succumbing, really, right? So to do something and to be who you are and talk to strangers, you know, to be more of what feels right, what feels like you, what feels authentic, what feels loving, to be more of that benefits not just you and the other person potentially in the equation, but it helps everyone. You know, getting back to that client, were there some people that didn't come out when he pounded on their doors? Yeah, there were. But he gave them the knock of opportunity to come out. He gave them that choice. And then the consequence of what they lived with for the rest of their lives, that was on them. But you never even know the value of that. Like suppose one dad didn't come out of the house and didn't go see his son in the hospital before he died. Maybe in 5 years, someone will say something and he'll be like, you know what? It's your son. Just get over yourself. You might not even know why he said it, but it could just come out. So those ripples, when you put something positive out there, the ripples are completely not quantifiable. And quite often, you're not going to find out the feedback about how far and beautifully and wide the ripples of that one little tiny thing that you did, how it has positively affected humanity. But it will. It totally will. It totally will. So what else was there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. So someone asked me a question. Pressure's on. Yeah.
I have a question about the guides. Like how many guides do you have? Do you have like your top 10?
How does that work?
Well, do you remember that underwear set you got when you were a little kid and it said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? I didn't even understand that as a kid. You know, like what if Wednesday and Thursday and Friday come up in the laundry on Monday and Sunday? What am I supposed to do? You know, skip the whole thing until the weekend? Never got it. Never got it. Even as a kid, I never got it. Yeah, so you have a guy today, embroidered. Now, you know, there's infinite possibilities of what we have as our guidance, but primarily understand that you have guides who are people that you love, who have left this earthly existence and gone back home. You have guides that you knew before you were born and they haven't had an earth life with you. You have guides who are in their bodies and their higher selves, their consciousness is acting as a guide to you and vice versa. You are guiding them. You have guides that come in for special occasions. Just like at a university, you're not going to go to the structural engineering professor if you want to know something about economics. Guides know how to operate that even when we're not in bodies. We do have these pronounced areas of expertise is a way to describe it. Things that we're very, very passionate and excited about that we spend a good amount of focus on when we're not in our bodies, and we just absorb and learn and more and expand in that arena. So we become experts in it. So those guides are going to come in when that area of expertise is something that you can benefit from in the moment. So our guidance that's available is infinite. Your higher self is guiding you. The universe itself is guiding you. Clusters of souls that are really trying to guide humanity all together, they're guiding us. So it's limitless and never ending. The one thing to always be aware of is that limitless is the truth. You know, there's a lot of people that say, here's something like mediums will sometimes say, oh, your dad is on to his next journey, so he's not available to talk today, right? So I think that that's kind of a really nice way for a medium to say, I'm not getting anything. Because no one really leaves us. The linear way we exist on Earth is it's because we live within the context of time. Therefore, things have to be prioritized, things have to be sequential. There's great value in the fact that we have this thing called time. In the energy realm, there's no such thing as time. So how could I leave you? You know, there's no action verbs, right? Can't leave you. Sorry, I'm stuck with you forever. It's not the same context of existence or reality when we're not in our bodies. You call on a guide, he or she is there for you. As fast as you can think about calling on them, they're already there before you can even finish your own thought. It's sort of like a flare. You put that flare out, they're 100% there with you. We have a hard time knowing that they're there, but they are there. Guidance is always like the analogy I use is it's a hotel room with an adjoining hotel room, and there's always two doors between the rooms. There's locks on them and then they close. Your guide's doors are always wide open and unlocked. Your door is locked and shut. We have to learn how to unlock it and we have to learn how to open it. It's all on us because we've been taught that nothing like that really exists, or we're taught that we're not intuitive, or we're taught that we're not eternal, or we're taught that that's airy-fairy and you got to act normal and do what people want you to do. So we have to unlearn that which it is we were misguided in and get back to our sense of intuition. And we can start to really open up that door of connection between ourselves and consciousness of the souls that are guiding us. Okay? Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the consciousness leaving your body? So I have my perception of what I think that is. Like when I meditate, I feel like lately it's been like I could see my feet kind of walking through grass, and then all of a sudden the grass is really tall, and then there are some souls around me that are, but I quickly jump back and forth.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know why, but is that what you
Yeah.
you mean by your consciousness leaving your body?
Yeah, I'm going to just repeat the question. So you're asking, what does it mean, consciousness leaving your body? And you were describing that during meditation, you have experiences where you can see your feet, and then your feet are in the grass, and then the grass is really tall, and you don't necessarily, you personally don't feel like you're pushing those images, they're happening. So you feel like you have maybe had that bit of a window
It's
of
like a
being,
repeating reel, though. Like every time I meditate, I always kind of, I get a little further into the grass.
okay,
each
that's so,
time.
I'm so glad you said that. She said
Yeah.
she gets further into the grass each time she meditates. That's exactly what the journey of consciousness starts as, it's sort of like a child, where when you're first out in public, a child might cling onto your leg, and then they might go over and run over and talk to one person and then run back. When your consciousness is beginning to mature and expand, it has the same process as a child, learning that it's safe and welcoming to be out there away from that which it is that we're accustomed to. So your consciousness is believing that it's all sewn up in here and it has to stay here because that's the safe zone. But little by little, as it starts to wander away and has nothing but wonderful and awesome experiences, you begin to feel more confidence in allowing it to go. What you're describing about how you keep rushing back into being Joanne, I always call that snapback. Snapback is incredibly common, even for those who have really worked a lot toward allowing their consciousness to experience other realms and possibilities. Now, the thing is that snapback, the way that you can overcome snapback is to not think. Okay, is to not think. Thinking means you remember your name, you remember what day of the week it is, you hear the dog bark and wonder if he has to go outside. That's thinking. All right. If you just follow, you kind of latch on to the images and you stay with the images and you keep entering and entering and entering and don't think, then your consciousness will be able to travel more and more and more. Okay. Staying connected to the focus without thinking. It's similar to when you get a moment of deja vu, right? What you're doing is you're leaving this moment and this space. Deja vu is you're leaving the context of time and place as you believe it to be. And when you leave it, you don't know what to do with it. So you snap back right into, I am this person and this is the day that it is and this is where I am. But if you were to stick a crowbar in deja vu and not remember who you are or where you think you are, you enter into that space and the crowbar starts to open it and open it. And you can actually enter into the whole of what was behind that deja vu moment. So this is pretty similar to that. The idea is to don't think. Don't think. When I have people go through the cycle of learning to get value from the dreams, one of the things that I help them to recognize is, number one, you keep a pen and paper on your nightstand. But when you wake up, the most important part of dream recall, to use your dreams of value to understand different aspects of life and your journey and get messages and see visits with guides, is when you wake up in the morning, do not remember who you are. Do not remember what day it is. Do not remember whether you have to go to work or not. Do not try to get in the shower before somebody else grabs it. What you have to train yourself to do is that when you awaken, you only stay in the mindset of sleep. And you train yourself to put the pen to the paper immediately. The second you remember who you are, you're going to lose a great portion of that dream recall. And the same thing is true with meditation or allowing consciousness to travel. You can't be you. You have to only follow with a focus that which it is that is in front of you. Okay? There are tools to help, and those tools are, in my intuition development classes, there's a whole paradigm that we put together that we use over and over again. And that is to use sights, sounds, smells that you only use while meditating, as you say. This is when I take a class on a journey to the energy realm, that which it is that we experience and exist in before we're born. So my journey to the energy realm experience is with classes. I help people to understand you take one fragrance that you don't use at any other part of your life and set it aside. And when you are meditating or going to the energy realm or allowing consciousness to travel, you open up that scent or light it or whatever. Other thing is, don't use your own muscles. So you want to be in a chair that's so comfortable that you're not lifting anything. Don't lift your head. Don't lift any part of your body. Just let all the muscles rest. The other thing is, when your consciousness travels, I have found this to be true. Your body temperature gets colder. So it's a good idea to make yourself 10 degrees warmer before you start the process, because you will go 10 degrees colder in the way that you perceive things. And the chill of your body can actually give you snapback. So prepare yourself by getting yourself warmer. The other thing is that a non-lyrical beat with a rhythm or some kind of new agey music that speaks to you, using the same music over and over and over again and not listening to it at any other time other than when you're doing this. And also dimmer lights and no distractions, no phone on, no vibrating. That's actually, when you recreate this every single time, we are Pavlovian. And in this case, it's a good thing to be Pavlovian, because the triggers of the scent, the sight, the warmth, the dimmer lights, the music, once you are able to travel away from your body, you're going to be more able to travel away from your body through the triggers of those stimuli. Okay. So that helps you to make progress more quickly. All right. And I also want to mention, which I make people understand really well in the intuition development classes, is that the fragrance that you use, it's important that it's a complex fragrance, which means it has a bottom and a top and a middle note. Okay, so we love our essential oils. I love them too. That's not going to cut it. A fragrance, it either has to be a blend with a top and a middle and a bottom note. And the reason is, your olfactory glands have the greatest muscle memory of any of your senses. So in order to stimulate the usage of your olfactory glands to bring you to where you want to be more quickly, you want to use up the whole bit of possibility of the sense of smell. With that complex fragrance, you can do that. So that complex fragrance can trigger your consciousness's memory to leave your body more quickly than a single note. Okay. And that's, believe it or not, that, and I always think eventually I'm going to have to get some money from Pier 1, because Pier 1 has, believe it or not, the greatest fragrances for this. Pier 1's fragrances are complex. Find one that you like. Oh, please give me money, Pier 1. I say it so freaking often, but it's just the truth. Their fragrances are complex. So pick one you like. Don't use that scent for anything else whatsoever except that experience. Okay?
Are they candles?
It could be candles, the scented sticks, fragrances. So you could fill their oil, their fragrance oil. You can put it on a pillow, whatever. A lot of people get, weird about candles. I don't want to fall asleep and die. I've never died with a candle on, so I'm pretty good with that. They make them so that don't worry about it. They're going to, they're pretty safe. So I love the candles. So that's what I would use.
I know somebody I can contact about fragrances.
Good point.
Good point.
Yes, absolutely. I was doing this long before that wonderful company, VictoriaColette.com, came into birth. Otherwise, I would have only gone to VictoriaColette.com, and I wouldn't have gone to Pier 1. True. Pop sensation.
You said that people never actually leave you because their souls are still there. Like the medium says, it's just an excuse for I'm not hearing from them. But what if someone comes back? I mean, what if they've reincarnated already? Then
Yeah.
Still have a connection with them?
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so interesting. You said, like, well, if someone comes back and they're reincarnated, then how can I have access to them? Like, my grandmother is now my neighbor's baby. Grandma's obviously not going to be talking to me, right? But it's so funny. Like, there's a false premise in there. We could sit around and have an endless conversation about your higher self. So you're so clear that your consciousness exists beyond your body. Yet when we talk about reincarnation, all of a sudden that person, the whole of their consciousness goes into that other body.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So the higher self is still there, even if they are managing a new body. So you still have access to grandma, even if she is your neighbor's baby.
Karen, do you
Got that?
Is there like an average amount, like, people that can fit one soul? Right. Like, so grandma died and now she's the neighbor's baby.
Now she's the neighbor's
Right.
baby.
And-
Yeah.
But could they be in more than one person?
Oh, wow. You guys are really going to take this to a high level. Change is possible. Remember, change is possible. Let's just reiterate, change is possible. Okay. Yes, you can throw your consciousness, you can toss your consciousness into more than one body at a time. Yes, you can. I've had some pretty vivid experiences where I have come across clients where I found another reflection of themselves on Earth at the same time. And what's fascinating is I love to do things a little bit sciencey.
What happens if you come across yourself in a different?
That happened once too.
Like, what happens?
Yeah, that happens too. That's the day the world comes to an end. Me and me are in the same restaurant fighting over that last piece of pie. Yeah, that's where it all falls apart. I did have a client that I was doing a session with her, and I saw her be in a restaurant where her other self was in the restaurant, and I was able to bring her back to the dinner and bring her back to, I was able to describe the couple at another table, and do you remember this? And she was wearing blue. And when we got all into this and I said that, that was you, then all of a sudden some things started to make sense. Like there was this feeling of like familiarity or interest or intrigue, where it wasn't just some invisible older couple over there having their dinner. Like she felt very interested in her. So there is sometimes that happens. But I've also come across multiple times where, think of, do you remember in 8th grade where you built a circuit and you had one battery and one light bulb, little mini light bulb in the circuit, right? And the bulb lights up nice when you got the circuit going. And then you put a second bulb in the circuit and they both light up a little more dimly, right? I found the same to be kind of true with having multiple selves on Earth, because I've come across like at least 3 cases where I was able to find out when their other self died, like down to the date. And then something happened where they were born in this life, like something, the light came on, or they became aware of something, or they stepped into their own power. So it's really, really interesting to see these things and how they work. Really fascinating, really fascinating.
That's the explanation as to why, because back in March, usually first, very strong, like undeniable.
Well, thank you for not dying.
Yeah. So, but what happened was they ended up basically dying very briefly. Back. Yeah, luckily someone was with me when it happened. Anyway, besides the point. Could that be what happened? Because there was no medical explanation.
Yeah, and it could be that another one of your selves was returning home. One thing to remember is that there's actually nothing negative about it. There really isn't. We do put up a lot of resistance about death, and there really doesn't need to be any resistance about death. Even if it's another one of ourselves, there's a lot of magic in it. There's a lot of profundity in it. There's a lot of things to be curious and intrigued about it in life and death. Yeah. I did spend a good amount of time being really scientific about the journeying of my consciousness away from my body with log books and uncovering things that had been hidden for me before people died, different things like that. It was really, really, really fascinating. I went through the journey as scientifically as I possibly could because that was something that really mattered to me, and it is, it's infinite, the stuff that you can explore. It really is. And there's nothing to be afraid of because the only evil that exists is among humans, because humans demonstrate evil behavior when they get separated from the vibration of love. And we all know that the only way you can separate from the vibration of love is if you've experienced abuse or neglect as a child. So if you have behaviors that are, others can interpret as being evil, or other people are behaving in ways that are evil, it's simply because they were separated from the loving source of their own being in childhood by the experiences that it is that they had. So when your consciousness travels, you can't bump into anything that can do you harm. The only thing that can do you harm ever is something that's on earth. Okay?
It could also be that emotional connection with your parents. If you didn't have that could be another form of trauma.
Absolutely. Everyone is doing the best that they can within their level of awareness. But if your parents are not able to parent in a way that's appropriate for you, that allows you to feel unconditionally loved and supported and protected and guided through the maturation process, it can cause definitely trauma for you. And absolutely separation from you being your most loving source, the source that you were born as. Absolutely. There's so many forms of neglect and abuse, and it's not just within our immediate families. It's even by the innocuous, well-meaning behaviors of people, and it can come through our religion, our political system, our community, our education system. There's so many things with the way that children are treated from birth on that do not necessarily keep us connected to the brilliance of the soul that we are born as. And so part of the new energy coming in, I don't know after 2020 how long it'll be until all of that, comes back together where we want it to be, but that's the trajectory we're on. But navigating that trajectory, that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about most of 2019. Okay. Oh, and I owe you guys an apology. We're not going to be getting 12 building blocks at the EPGs this year because I don't hold the February meeting here because it's too close to the year before us. So I will be giving one of the building blocks at the year before us. So you'll still get 12, but they won't all be here. I just wanted to make sure that I remembered to say that. Okay.
When's the next one?
Here?
Yes.
Let me see. When is the next Making Discoveries here? This is the hardest part of my day.
March 13th.
Thank you. It's March 13th. Yes, March 13th. March 13th. March 13th. It's always the second Wednesday of the month. Second Monday of the month is the one in New York City. If you ever want to grab a bus and come and see us all. Go out to dinner first. We have a great time in the city. We really do.
I have one more question that might just kind of blow our minds. So
blow our minds with one more question, and then I will let you guys go.
So if all that is the what we all come from, all that is
Yes.
God.
Whatever we want to say.
So now we all come from all that is. We're all souls. We all come to earth. So you talked about us being, or a soul being in multiple bodies. Aren't we all a multiple body of all that is?
Isn't that what manifests the television show?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm seeing it, because like if I'm one soul, but I'm connected to source, so are you, so we're all
Absolutely, 100%.
And then we're not all aspects, but some lights are dimmer than others.
Yeah.
And that is just based on the experience of the body.
Yeah.
Not the soul.
Right. Absolutely. Well, It's a little bit of both. What she's saying is, aren't we all aspects of source of all that is? Therefore, aren't we all manifesting the oneness in a body of source? And the answer is yes. So do we have two bits of our own consciousness? Well, we all are bits of universal consciousness, most definitely. The thing about it is that it's also important to remember, even though we are all connected and we are all one, we are all one. It's also important to own the fact that you are unique as well and that you are distinct, because some schools of thought in spirituality kind of scrub away the originality of you. And I don't think that's the intention at all. You are very, very powerful and very, very important. So don't ever dumb yourself down by saying that you are a drop in the ocean. You are far more significant than being a drop in an ocean, by far. Okay, that's number one. And the other thing is that, what else did you say? There's something else you said. Aren't we all?
Right, the body makes it dimmer.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. Is it that we all are source, but some of us, based on the human experience, we might be dimmer in our radiant energy. Our radiant energy is twofold. One is the innate radiant energy we're born with based on what we have done throughout our eternal journey. So you're born with different radiant energies. And then the consequence of Earth, what you get shrouded with that is not connected to the vibration of love, will make you vibrate on Earth at a smaller radiant energy than you were born with. So there's two factors, okay? In the process of enlightenment, the first step is to get rid of the sludge that you are surrounded with, get rid of those masks and layers and the stuff that's mistrue or painful that you carry, the first step. And then after you get through all of that, then you can expand. So you can increase your vibrational energy even when you are human, having a human experience. So yes. Nat, you had a question.
Yeah, it made me think of something. I think that whether it's God or the source, whatever, it's actually every soul together at its most light state. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. It's what it is.
So it's us.
Yeah, we're not separate. The analogy that I use, because it makes it easier to understand a little bit, is if we all understand what centrifugal force is, right? If all that is the sun, infinite radiant power, right? And it's as it's expanding, and one of the ways it expands is to know itself. And in that expansiveness, there's a centrifugal force that sends off sparks of itself, right? When there's a spark of yourself and it's not yourself, you can understand it and comprehend it from a different level, right? Follow me? That's why oftentimes the universe will mirror and reflect back to us that which it is, which is unknown to us, so that we can understand it differently than if we can only see it within us. So each of us is one of those sparks. So our journey is the process of enlightenment is to make your way back to the center of that heat, that light, that love. Okay. So you're still hot, you're still radiant, you're still love, but the intensity of the radiance is a little less as you're away from the center. So our journey as souls is to make our way back home. Okay. That's basically my way of helping us understand it in an easy to digest form. And then even when you're looking at the sparks, if one spark is like this and another spark is like this, you can see how the radiant energy from that spark is also warming that other spark, right? Your radiant energy expands the same way as the rays from the sun. So the greater your radiant energy is based on you as a soul and what you have removed, the masks and layers, and your growth, your opportunity to be able to be of positive value or influence to others expands as your radiant energy expands. So like even something as simple as Jay asking one place to not use styrofoam. If Jay were earlier on in her radiant energy journey, maybe New York City today would not be styrofoam free, heading to be styrofoam free. I know I'm making a connection that's not exactly direct, but the point is that I know I'm illustrating that she's responsible for New York City being styrofoam free or heading in that direction. I'm just trying to show that her radiant energy, because she's got a high vibrational energy, she can put ripples of possibility out there that are expansive. And when you're newer, they might just reach a little bit less, but still worthy to reach, no doubt.
Question. So does consciousness enjoy coming to Earth here, Earth School, and going through different challenges and issues and all the mask and layers that we put on ourselves? I mean, I'm sure consciousness doesn't judge it.
All right.
Why even put itself into that experience
Yeah.
when you come perfect and whole?
Yeah.
And pick it all up.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, she's asking, does consciousness enjoy coming to Earth with all the challenges and getting all the masks and layers and, you know, trying to figure this out and getting Earth amnesia? So like if we're whole before we're born, why bother? Yeah, I've given whole long seminars to answer that question. Very, very, very long seminars to answer that question. So let me run through a 3-day seminar in 30 seconds. Okay. Earth has 4 vehicles for discovery that are not in other realms. Those give us opportunities to explore and comprehend on levels that we don't when we're not in bodies. One is space and place. To navigate physical manifestation means there's a lot of opportunities in having different places geographically, choosing to live in one place only your whole life, traveling, not traveling, getting from one place to another. All of the things about managing the navigation of space is a huge tool for discovery. The second is time. We don't have time when we're not in our bodies. We could talk for days and days. I could write a book just on the value of time as a tool for discovery, from the process of maturation to the way that time allows us to prioritize or not prioritize. The fact that it's the only thing finite within the infinite, it creates a dynamic dichotomy that kind of compels us to seek and to search and to discover more so than not having that dichotomy. Okay. The third one is negativity. No such thing as anything negative outside of the human experience. Negativity is a phenomenal tool because you get to experience the contrast between that which it is, which will align you with that which is positive. What are your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, and your beliefs that bring you to the state of consciousness of the wholeness of your soul before you're born? So in the absence of that, you get to open up to perceptions of possibility about how to refocus your thinking, your feeling, your believing, or the subsequent actions that you take based on it. So it helps you to understand the projection of consciousness and how subtle little changes in what you're doing with your consciousness affect, in this case, the physical manifestation of reality. Your consciousness is that powerful when you're not in a body, but you understand the cause and effect. So you don't necessarily get to see it from a microscopic perspective. Okay. So negativity gives you that opportunity. So I said 3 of them. What's the 4th one? Time, space, negativity. Oh yeah. The process of maturation is the 4th tool. In the energy realm, we're all mature souls. Well, Joanne's not mature. She's always doing pranks and whoopee cushions and all that stuff. But the rest of us are all, we're all mature adults. We're all mature souls. The process of maturation, whether it's a seedling or a puppy or an infant or yourself, it gives us an infinite amount of chance for discovering. When you are taking care of something else instead of only taking care of yourself, it helps you to get out of that myopic focus of believing that you are isolated and separate. It brings you into understanding cause and effect, care and not care, the what if of abuse or neglect, or the what if of love and caring and tenderness and attention. So the process of maturation is a huge discovery tool for us. Some people, when they're abused, their discoveries will operate in the plant or the animal kingdom rather than with the human kingdom because they've been burned so much in the human kingdom. But they can still discover opportunities for their soul's growth and development with animals or with plants or other species on the planet, insects and so on. All right? That's the short answer.
I'm really confused about the last thing you said. Maturation. I think you said before birth, everyone is mature.
When we're souls without our bodies,
Souls without
one
bodies.
soul is not an infant. There's no such thing as infancy as a soul.
But aren't some souls, you said before, there's some souls are more radiant than others.
Yeah,
Some souls
but
are
you're still
like
mature.
same.
You still have consciousness and the ability to understand your place in the universe and your place in your own reality. Okay, you're not dependent. There's no dependency in here. We in the maturation process, there's dependency. Okay, especially in the human form. The plant kingdom, there's not, unless they're inside your home. But the idea of moving in the realm of dependency to interdependency to independency, that process as humans, for the soul to have that possibly unfold in a harmonious way, is where we get so much of our opportunity for the soul to develop. And it's interesting when you think about it, because there's so many ways that you can have a different slant on it. You know, the parent that doesn't let the kid grow up, the kid that doesn't grow up because they don't want to, the parent that likes the kid when they're under 6 but then can't stand 6 to 12, so they become neglectful or abusive from 6 to 12, then they're back all in at 12. I mean, there's so many different ways that this can be. You know, too much attention, too little attention, overfeed, overwater, you know. And then we get to parallel with the plant and the animal kingdom to see what happens with the what ifs. Right? Yeah, you got to feed your kid every day. You know, your plant needs some sunlight. This is how we learn. This is how we learn to see ourselves in some reflection of our interconnectedness, because things can't live in isolation.
So consciousness just loves the feeling of love and bliss and just keeps creating it through
Yes,
different
yes. You know, we all truly believe with the utmost altruistic intention that we are going to be the one in this body, in this lifetime, in this incarnation that nails it. Like, our memories of challenges and pain, they're only stored in our memory, but they're not stored in a pain center, because there is no pain in the energy realm. It's theoretical, it's interesting, it's intriguing. We know we really suffered when we were here, but I got it down this time. I really got it. This time I'm going to sail right through this, and I'm going to, basically, the metaphor is I'm going to create heaven on earth. Right? If we use heaven as the metaphor for consciousness without a body. And we all believe we can do it. And we are going to do it in this lifetime. And we are doing it. Huh? Thank you, everybody. I think I went way over, and I apologize for that. But change is possible. And I will see you on January 26th. Thank you, everybody.